Welcome back, witches. This is week 3 of a Beginning a Witch's Apothecary, presented by myself, Josie Hellebore, and Witch With Me. We are going to cover 5 different areas of herbalism this week. We're going to talk about salves and ointments, how you use them, and we're going to make a couple of them. We're going to talk about poultices and how and when you use those, and a couple of ways to make those. We're going to go over decoctions and what those are. And we're also going to go over herbal baths, how to make them, how they're used in different magical systems, and we're also going to learn about attracting versus removal herbs. There is a difference, and when you're creating your own recipes for herbal baths, you're going to want to understand the concept of attracting versus removing and when to use those and when not to use them. Last week was so jam-packed with exercises and the videos were so in-depth that I actually didn't have the time to do a wrap-up video to accompany the wrap-up PDF. So I wanted to go over again what the ingredients that you're going to need for this week are. Of course, you have them already. They were listed in the wrap-up for week 2, but I just want to kind of vocalize those, okay? So first things that you're going to want to have, you're going to want to have your cheesecloth and or your nylon pantyhose again. And again, we'll be using that just like I showed you when we did the oils. You're going to be using those to strain. You're going to want glass measuring cups again. One larger, one smaller if you can. Just as long as you have one, that's what really counts. Stock pot if that's the method of double boiler that you're using. We will be implementing double boiling again when we visit making salves. So just know that whatever you use to double boil with your oils, you're gonna want that this week too. And another thing you're gonna want for this is some beeswax or Candelilla wax if you want to do a vegan option. You can use any kind of wax that you want to. I know that at some hobby stores and stuff like that, they have soy and different kind of wax granules that you can use. Just make sure that whenever you're purchasing the wax that you make sure that it's okay for cosmetic use and okay to put on skin and that's not going to irritate, because we're going to use that in our salves and we want to make sure that whatever wax we're using is going to be safe on the skin. You're also going to want to have your base oil, so olive oil, grapeseed oil, almond oil, whatever oil that you decided on that you wanted to use for your base oil, you're going to want to have that. And again, that will be for ourselves. The other thing you're going to want for salves is either some small tins or some small mason jars like I talked to you about in the first introductory video. And just to revisit that, if you did decide to go with the tins, okay, so these are the smaller tins that I have. I bought these in bulk off of Amazon, super cheap. I think it was like 12 bucks for 24 of them, maybe even cheaper than that. And then I also found these. I find them sporadically at Dollar Tree. They're a little bit bigger and the lid screws on. They're just a little bit bigger than these. And you get these in 2 packs for $1. So they're not quite as cheap, but if you need something quick and in a pinch, you can always check these out and see if you can find them at your local Dollar Tree. Next thing that you're going to want to have is your wooden spoon to stir with, like we already talked about and used before. You're going to want your kitchen funnels again, have those on hand. You're going to want your labels, as always, so you can label and you can date. You're also going to want to have your grimoire or your recipe book or your journal on hand so you can write down some of these steps and some of the different recipes and how you want to variate them, and any certain notes that you take on the subject. You be sure to add those in. You're going to want some activated charcoal, which I talked to you about in introductory. Again, this is the active charcoal that I use. It was made to whiten your teeth, but I don't use it for that. I actually use it for witchy stuff, such as making poultices. You're also going to want some Epsom salt and some baking soda. And you're going to need some dried herbs as well this week. Those include citronella. We'll go over the 2 different salves. So the first salve that you're going to want is you're going to want dried citronella for that. And you're going to also need some essential oils. And those are geranium, lemon, rosemary. And if you don't have dried citronella to use, you can always substitute for citronella oil. You're also going to want your trusty oil dropper, which you should already have. Now, we're also going to do another salve, and this is actually going to be my first time making this salve together with you guys. So this isn't a recipe that I already had formulated, which my other salve is. My other salve for the all-natural mosquito repellent is a salve that I've used for years. I've actually published how-to on my website as well as in Witchology magazine. So this is a tried and true recipe that I've used many times and made multiple times. This recipe that I'm going to read to you now of ingredients that you'll need, this is brand new. So we're just gonna kind of wing it together, and I'm gonna show you how I make stuff on the fly sometimes. Just because of my knowledge of herbs and how they work and the processes, I've learned I can do that. I can just make things on the fly, kind of wing it and tweak it as I'm making it to meet the needs or to perfect the scent, things like that. For this salve, you're going to want some cayenne pepper powder, some ginger oil, or you can use some of the pieces of dried ginger like you did for the tincture we made last week, but I would suggest ginger oil. That's what I'm going to be using. You're also going to want eucalyptus oil, and you're going to want spearmint oil. This is going to be a muscle ache and pain salve. I'm actually tentatively calling it fire and ice. So we've got two different ingredients that create a heat sensation, and that's your cayenne and your ginger. We've also got two ingredients that create a cooling or mentholated sensation, which is your eucalyptus and your spearmint oil. So that's the second salve that we're gonna make. Okay, so then after we make our salves, next we're gonna make some poultices, and I'm gonna read you off the herbs and plants that you're gonna want for that. So for the first one that we're gonna make is going to be a rosemary and thyme poultice, and for that one you're gonna want either fresh or dried rosemary and thyme. For the second one, in terms of what you're gonna need for herbal ingredients or plant ingredients, you're gonna want some comfrey, dried or fresh, and you're also going to want some ginger. So you can just use that leftover ginger from the third tincture that we made last week, and that will work fine. And the tincture I'm referring to is the cold and flu tincture. It was the one that we made with apple cider vinegar. So you should have had ginger for that. And again, if you don't have ginger, you could use ginger oil, but I think that it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. For poultices, it's always better to have the actual plant, and you'll see why when we start making those. And the third type of apothecary creation we're gonna make this week is we're gonna make some herb baths. So first we're gonna learn about herbal baths and the different techniques you can use to make them. And then we're gonna discuss how herbal baths are used in different magical practices and systems. And we're also going to talk about the difference between attracting herbs and removing herbs. So they do opposite things. So we're going to talk about what those are and when you should use them. Now specifically, we do have a couple of baths we're going to make. We're going to be making a reversal bath, a removal or reversal bath, and we're also going to be making an attracting bath. The removal reversal bath we're going to make is going to be a cut and clear. So what you're going to need for that is salt, lemon juice. You can use from a fresh lemon, or you can already have the lemon juice container that you buy at the grocery store. Totally up to you. And you're also going to want to have black coffee, any kind of black coffee. Just make sure there's no cream or sugar or anything. Got to be black. And then you also want to have some lemongrass or lemon balm on hand. And I always like to add Florida water. So Florida water, if you've got some, and I hope that you do, you're going to want to add that to it as well. It's not necessary that you have this. It is totally optional, but I highly recommend it. For our sweetening bath, the herbs that you're going to want to have are calendula, chamomile, lavender, and dried rose. And you should already have most of those because we did use them for some of our other recipes. The only one we haven't used yet is calendula. So I'm hoping that you all have it. If you don't fret. You can leave it out. You can also replace it with something else from the herbal correspondences sheet that has similar properties. And you're also going to be able to double cross-reference that with the other PDF for this week, which is going to be the list of attracting and removing herbs. So what you would want to do if you don't have calendula or any of those others on that list, you're going to go down the attracting herb list and you're going to find one that you do and you're going to substitute it. Alright guys, so let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is start making some salves. So gather all those ingredients together that you're going to need for your salve making, and let's head to the kitchen.